Hi everyone, I'm Sleepless Scientist. Tonight, we're trading the stars for something quieter, something deeper. Not the sky above, but the world below. A world that breathes beneath your bedroom floor, beneath your city's pavement, beneath the ancient bones of every mountain you've ever seen. You might not think about it often, but just beneath where you're lying right now, below the carpets and tiles and roots and bedrock, there's a whole hidden realm. Not just rock and lava, not just tunnels and fossils, but life. Actual breathing, wriggling, thriving life. Down there, in the dark. And tonight, we're going to follow it. Slowly, gently, with a flashlight that never runs out and shoes that don't get muddy. Because sleep waits in strange places, and some of them are very far underground. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you. Let me know in the comments below. I'm always curious where these quiet little science stories are drifting to, and if this video helped you while you were there. End the closing first person with an emotional, intimate sentence that motivates the video maker. Let's go find the quietest life on Earth together. You feel the draft first. A soft whisper across the floorboards. Not cold exactly, more like the breath of something slow and steady. You kneel down, push your hand to the edge of the rug and peel it back. There's a crack. A real one. Thin, jagged, like the beginning of a story someone tried to hide under linoleum and forget. You don't panic. You're a nighttime explorer now. So you find a flashlight, because of course you do, and shine it into the dark. And what do you find? Dirt. But not just dirt. A tunnel. Maybe natural. Maybe old. And as you step into it, your body adjusts. Heartbeat, slowing breath, falling in time with the hush that surrounds you. It smells like clay mushrooms and something faintly metallic like memory. Welcome to the world below. You crouch and begin to move, half crawl, half slide, following the curved walls as they widen just enough to let you through. You're not scared exactly. It's too peaceful for fear. Too slow. Above you, the world of coffee shops and blinking lights and emails buzzes on. Down here, it's timeless. Your fingertips graze the walls which feel damp and cool. Threads of root systems hang like chandeliers in an earthy cathedral. The soil squishes slightly beneath your knees, alive with a kind of gentle pressure, as if it's listening. And then you see it, a glint of light that's not yours. You follow. It leads to a low hollow, rounded like a burrow. And inside, a glow. Not electric, not magical. Bioluminescence. Fungi, most likely. Maybe something rarer. Their tendrils fan across the walls like frost patterns pulsing faintly. You sit for a while. It's warm here, the kind of warm that only comes from organic decay, life recycling itself in layers too deep for sunlight to reach. Here's your major scientific fact. Just the top meter of soil contains more organisms than there are stars in the galaxy. Bacteria, archaea. Fungi, protozoa, nematodes, millions of species, most of them still unnamed. A teaspoon of healthy soil can hold billions of microbes. It's one of Earth's most complex ecosystems, and almost nobody sees it. You reach down and touch the earth. It crumbles slightly, crumb structure they call it. A sign of rich microbial activity. Those microbes help break down organic matter, release nutrients, trap carbon, and support the roots of basically everything green you've ever loved. And here's your odd little fact of the night. Earthworms have 5 hearts. 5. And they don't even brag about it. You spot one now, slinking past you with that slow, determined squirm. You whisper, "Hey buddy," and it completely ignores you. Fair. It has work to do. You watch it vanish into a deeper crease in the dirt, and you follow. Because the strange thing about the underground is that everything leads deeper. You descend into a passage where the roots begin to thin and the air grows stiller. It's darker now, colder. You pause, holding your breath. There's no sound except the occasional creak of settling earth, like the house of the world shifting in its sleep. Scientists still debate where life technically ends underground, how deep it goes, how long it survives. But what's clear is that life doesn't stop where the sun does. You curl into the corner of a small cavity. Let your body relax against the wall. You feel a faint vibration, almost imperceptible. Maybe a subway line far above. Maybe the pulse of groundwater. Or maybe, just maybe, the heartbeat of the planet. You pull your coat tighter and rest your head against the soil. You're only a few meters down and already the world feels softer, simpler. You've left behind the clocks and the texts and the fridge light. All that's left is breath and roots and the slow unfolding of a night that was here long before you and will be long after. Down here, you don't chase time. It waits with you. You wake up with a beetle crawling over your sleeve. It's not a nightmare, just a reminder that you're not alone down here. The underground isn't empty. It's a fully booked hotel, and you're the very last guest to check in. You shake the beetle off gently. It gives you a look, probably insulted, and then it scurries into the darkness, back into its private wing of Earth's dirt kingdom. You sit up slowly. The glow from the fungi has dimmed behind you, but ahead the walls widen. You shuffle forward, hands brushing against a spongier, loam-rich soil. Something tickles your palm. Mycelium. That's right, you're in fungus country now. You lean close and squint at the lacework beneath your fingers. It spreads like white lightning through the dirt, silent and ancient. This is the mycorrhizal network, also called the Wood Wide Web. A living system that connects trees, shares nutrients, and maybe, just maybe, passes messages between plants. Here's your major science fact. Trees don't grow alone. Around 90% of land plants form symbiotic relationships with fungi. These networks allow them to exchange carbon, nitrogen, and even chemical signals. A tree under attack by pests can warn its neighbors via fungal threads. You imagine that forests gossiping beneath your feet, all because of a mushroom's quiet ambition. You crawl a bit farther and spot a springtail, a teeny insect with antennae too big for its ego. It bounces across the soil like it's late for a tiny meeting. These things eat fungus, bacteria, algae, whatever's soft and useful. Think of them as soil janitors, or maybe party crashers. Here's your odd fact of the night. Springtails can survive being frozen solid, not like a mild frost, like actual ice cube freezer in January solid. Then they thaw and just get on with their day. No drama. You tip your head back and laugh softly, not because it's funny exactly, but because the idea that tiny frozen bugs exist down here, just casually outliving your heating bill, is comforting in a weird way. You press onward. The roots become thicker here, intertwined like old friends or tangled headphone cords. You spot nodules on some of them, little swollen beads clinging to the root hairs. Nitrogen fixers. You nod like you knew this was coming. These little root nodules are home to rhizobium bacteria, which take nitrogen from the air and turn it into something the plant can actually use. In return, the plant feeds them sugar. It's like a tiny underground cafe with free Wi-Fi and no corporate landlord. Scientists still debate just how much of the Earth's atmospheric nitrogen is converted by soil microbes versus oceanic ones. But what's clear is this: without underground bacteria, your salad wouldn't exist. You keep moving through the soft maze of organic matter and the air grows thicker. Not heavy, just earthy, like the smell of a forest floor after rain. A reminder that decay is not the end here, it's just another kind of beginning. You reach a small chamber and it's like stepping into an apartment complex. Ants have built a sprawling network of tunnels with galleries and granaries and tiny nurseries tucked away in smooth-walled alcoves. You crouch and watch. They don't notice you. They're too busy, carrying bits of leaf, herding aphids, tending to larvae. And suddenly, it hits you. This whole layer of soil is basically a vertical metropolis, stacked with root, highways, fungal cables, insect tunnels, and bacterial restaurants. A living city just inches below your tomato garden. And you never even sent them rent. You linger in the silence. Because this isn't wild primal life. This is organized, interlinked, intentional. Nothing down here acts alone. Everything is connected. Everything contributes. Even you now. Because you've seen it. And once you've seen the life under the surface, it's hard to walk across a lawn the same way again. You curl up for a minute in a dry pocket of the tunnel wall. Let your fingers sift through the dirt. It feels soft but powerful, like holding a story that was never meant to be read aloud. The beetle from earlier scuttles back into view. You name it, Jerry. Jerry pauses, turns and continues on, probably unimpressed. You smile. Sleep pulls at the edges of your thoughts again. Not the heavy falling kind, the quiet kind. The kind that hums from the bones of the planet and says, "You're allowed to rest now." So you do, for just a moment, wrapped in the warmth of a planet's skin. You blink awake to a silence that feels deeper. Not just quiet hollow like something vast is holding its breath. You've moved past the roots. The soil is tighter here, compacted. The tunnel has narrowed into a kind of natural corridor, and you press forward with slower steps. The air cools your cheeks. Your flashlight flickers but holds steady. You tap it twice, like a seasoned cave explorer, which you absolutely are now. This is the twilight soil zone. Too deep for most roots, too shallow for rock, and yet somehow still alive. You crouch and press your ear to the dirt wall. Nothing. But not an empty kind of nothing, more like the silence you get in a library where everything's quietly processing. You keep moving. The earth here feels different underfoot. Drier, denser. It smells faintly of iron and something almost sweet like distant compost. You run your fingers along the sides and see small, hardened tunnels, relics of old insect highways long abandoned. Still, you're not alone. There's a flicker of movement just ahead. You freeze, and then you laugh. Because it's a velvet worm, short, squishy, legs like stumpy fuzz. It lumbers along the wall like a tired plush toy. These little guys are ancient, like pre-dinosaur ancient. And weird. Absolutely. Here's your odd fact. velvet worms hunt with glue guns. Sort of. They shoot sticky jets from glands on either side of their face to trap prey. It's like Spider-Man meets silly string if Spider-Man had antennae and zero ambition. You give it a nod of respect and move on. Your light catches something else, a shimmer across the dirt, too symmetrical to be natural. You kneel and find a colony of slime molds stretching across the wall like golden veins. They pulse very, very slowly, moving to find food. And get this, they solve mazes. Here's your major science fact. Slime molds, like Physarum, Polycephalum, can map out the shortest path between two food sources even without a brain or nervous system. In experiments, they've recreated train networks, escaped traps, and learned patterns, all from a squishy yellow blob that looks like spilled mustard. Scientists still debate how this intelligence works. Is it chemical memory distributed processing, or are we just really bad at recognizing what counts as thinking? You sit back and stare at the mold for a long time, because it's hard not to wonder if a brainless blob can figure out a puzzle. What else is possible down here? The tunnel slopes downward again, and you follow. Your hands touch stone now, not just soil. Patches of chalk gritty with ancient seashells. Fossils of microscopic creatures pressed like secrets into the wall. The further you go, the older everything feels. The air is thinner, but not hard to breathe. Just deliberate. You pause near a small alcove and peer in. A spider the size of your thumbnail perches upside down on a silken hammock. Not webbing exactly. More like a sheet of tension strung between pebbles. Her body doesn't move, but her legs twitch slightly. You realize she's listening. To you. To everything. Down here, vibration is more important than vision. There's no light to see with, so life listens. It feels. Tiny hairs on legs, pressure sensors on skin, chemical trails in damp corridors. You whisper an apology and keep going. As you crawl deeper, you notice fewer signs of life, at least ones you can see. The walls grow smoother, pressed by time and pressure. The soil turns grey, then dark brown, then nearly black, and then a crunch underfoot. Not bone, not rock, but exoskeleton. You glance down to see the dried husk of a long dead beetle, its shell still gleaming faintly. A reminder that life ends down here too, but never wastefully. Something else will feed on it. Something always does. You find a small crevice to rest your legs. Stretch them. The temperature hasn't changed much, but your perception has. It's not warm or cold. It's settled. As if this part of the earth has made peace with its depth. Scientists still debate just how deep multicellular life can persist. Bacteria. Sure. But insects, worms, vertebrates. Every new cave, every new borehole brings surprises. No one really knows where the line ends. And maybe that's the magic. You close your eyes for a moment and imagine your own body becoming part of this place, not morbidly just absorbed. A nutrient, a whisper, a tiny echo in the soil that helps something else grow. You smile, because maybe that's all life is, a ripple handed down. Like the beetle, like the velvet worm, like you. You've stopped checking the time. Not that it matters down here. In this world beneath clocks, time is measured in drips, fractures, and decay rates, not seconds or hours. You move slowly now, not from exhaustion, but because everything here seems to insist on patience. The tunnel opens into a small chamber. The walls shimmer faintly with mineral deposits, bands of quartz, streaks of iron, little patches of mica that catch your light and bounce it softly back. It's like stepping into a cathedral, carved by stillness. You sit and rest your palm against the stone. It's warm, just slightly. Not hot, not glowing, but definitely not cold. The heat isn't from the sun, it's from the planet itself. The Earth's inner engine pushing warmth up through ancient rock. Here's your major science fact. Deep underground, life doesn't rely on sunlight, it relies on chemistry. Microorganisms survive by eating rock, breaking down minerals to extract energy. These chemolithic autotrophs form the base of deep subterranean ecosystems, entire biospheres that live without ever seeing the sky. You push deeper into a fracture that branches off from the main tunnel. The rock narrows, then widens again, and suddenly you're in what looks like a fault line. Jagged layers, cracked and pressed together like pages in a geological book. The air here tastes metallic, and it's not empty. You spot something clinging to the side of the rock wall, bacterial biofilm, a kind of slime layer. It glows slightly under your light, not because it's magical, but because it's teeming with life. These microbes feast on iron, sulfur, and hydrogen. Some use carbon dioxide as their carbon source, just like plants, but they don't need chlorophyll. They don't even need light, just rock water and time. You whisper to yourself, photosynthesis is a choice. You smile. Because this is the kind of life that makes scientists giddy and confused all at once. Here's your odd fact of the night. Some of these microbes are so isolated they haven't seen the surface for millions of years. In one South African gold mine, bacteria were found living 3 kilometers below ground, feeding off radioactive decay in the rock around them. Like cave-dwelling introverts, but with a PhD in resilience. You lean back and imagine them down here, munching uranium like cornflakes. You keep crawling. Eventually the ground softens again. Moisture beads along the walls, seeping from invisible fractures. A puddle gathers near your foot, not from rain or a pipe, but from the slow exhale of the earth itself. You touch it. It's warm too. You think of those old myths, hot springs that heal caves where oracles whispered cracks in the earth that led to other realms. Maybe they weren't so wrong. Maybe they were just poetic versions of bacterial colonies and geothermal vents. Scientists still debate the origin of deep biospheres. Did life begin down here, sheltered from harsh surface conditions? Or did it migrate downward from above? Some theories even propose that Mars might still host similar life buried beneath its surface in tiny brine-filled fractures. You sit there alone with your breath and wonder if something under your hand has never been touched by sunlight, if it has never been breathed on by wind, if it has existed completely unseen for longer than your species has walked upright, and you feel small, but in a good way. You take off your gloves and press your palms flat against the stone. It's warm, still, alive. This is not the graveyard you expected. This is home to something. You stretch out on a dry patch and close your eyes. There's no buzzing here, no alerts, no weather to check. Just the hum of microbial life, so distant and constant it might as well be silence. And for a while, that's enough. Just the stone, and the breath, and the idea that maybe, just maybe, the earth is alive all the way through. You don't hear it at first. It's not a roar, not a splash, not anything dramatic. It's a hush, a background murmur, like someone left a faucet on in another dimension. You follow the sound step by step down a sloping tunnel. The walls are slick now, cool and glistening. The rock here is smoother, darker, denser. Your feet press into damp sediment. You smell moisture before you see it. And then suddenly, you do. Water. Not a puddle, not a trickle. A river moving underground. You blink. It takes a moment for your brain to register it fully because this shouldn't exist here, and yet it does. Flowing steadily through a natural channel, not wide, but deep. Maybe 10 feet across. Maybe more. It disappears into the rock ahead and curls back from some hidden source behind you. There's no sky, no moon to reflect. Just your flashlight beam sweeping across it, revealing flashes of sediment in suspension, tiny whirlpools where the current brushes against the wall. You kneel by the edge and dip your fingers in. Cool, soft, almost velvety. Here's your major scientific fact. Beneath Earth's surface lie vast aquifers, underground layers of water-bearing rock that store and transmit groundwater. These aquifers supply nearly half of all drinking water used by humans. Some are shallow and recharge quickly. Others, called fossil aquifers, are thousands or even millions of years old, and once emptied, may never refill. You trail your hand along the current, wondering where it's been. Rain from centuries ago, melted glaciers, water that seeped through mountains and sandstone for half a continent. Before reaching this forgotten stream, you shine your light downstream and freeze. There's movement. Something darts, no glides, just beneath the surface. You hold still. A fish. Small, pale. No eyes. You exhale. Welcome to the realm of troglobites, creatures adapted entirely to life underground. No light, no predators, no color. Just stillness, patience, and evolution that says, who needs eyeballs anyway? Here's your odd fact. Some cavefish have evolved so far from their sighted ancestors that their eye sockets are completely sealed over with skin. And yet many have enhanced senses of pressure and taste. Some even navigate using vibrations like echolocation, but for vibes. You sit beside the stream and watch more of them slip through the dark. Their pale bodies shimmer like ghosts in the current. They don't notice you, or if they do, they don't care. They've survived here for thousands of generations. Some have never known what light even means. You drink in the silence, except it isn't really silent. You start to hear other things. Drips, echoes, a distant rumble of falling water, maybe a small waterfall or a shaft where rain filters down from the surface. The river is part of a hydrologic whisper network running beneath cities, forests, deserts beneath you, probably as you slept each night unaware. Scientists still debate just how much water is stored in Earth's crust. Some estimates suggest that there's more water locked in rock than in all the oceans combined, not as free-flowing liquid, but chemically bound inside minerals. You lie on your stomach now, chin resting on your arms, peering into the current. You wonder how many footsteps right now are echoing somewhere above this very flow. How many machines are drilling? How many farmers irrigating? How many cities sipping this water without knowing where it came from? This river doesn't need thanks. It doesn't hold grudges. It just flows, quietly, through time, through rock, through the lives of blind fish and the hands of sleepy explorers like you. And suddenly you feel lighter, not from the water, but from knowing it's there. Constant, steady, not asking to be seen, only to be respected. You lean your head on your arm. The hum of water curls around your ears like a lullaby. You think about rivers above, about rain. And then you let this one carry your thoughts for a while. Something brushes against your foot. You jolt just slightly and shine your light downward. Nothing dangerous, just a flick of pale movement there and gone. Another cave dweller, maybe more curious than cautious. The air is cooler now, thicker with moisture, dense enough to feel like breathing underwater. The river you discovered still murmurs nearby, but it splits off now, forming quiet pools and slow backwaters nestled between natural stone shelves. You crouch beside one of them, and what you see is almost otherworldly. Tiny shapes drifting in the still water, slim, silvery, nearly invisible. One wiggles toward the edge, and you catch it in the light. A shrimp, but not like the ones you skewer on barbecue nights. This one is transparent. You can see its internal organs pulsing softly like a slow jazz drummer keeping time inside a glass sculpture. It floats backward into the gloom, not in fear, just in routine. You scan the edges of the pool and spot more life cave beetles, leggy and blind, feeling their way across stone with the confidence of something that's never missed having eyes. There's a tiny salamander, too pale as parchment ribs, faintly visible through its skin, moving so slowly it looks like it's underwater, even when it's not. You feel like an intruder in a library made of water and quiet. Here's your major scientific fact. These animals are called stygobionts, species fully adapted to subterranean aquatic environments. Over generations, they lose pigmentation vision and sometimes even basic sensory structures, conserving energy in a world where food is scarce and daylight is meaningless. Evolution here isn't flashy. It's efficient and it's ancient. Some of these lineages date back tens of millions of years. A few might have outlived entire surface ecosystems. They have seen ice ages, extinctions, and shifting continents, all from down here, without ever bothering to blink. You crouch closer to the pool's edge. The water doesn't reflect your face, it just absorbs it. Not a mirror, but a passage. You feel like if you fell in, you'd drop into another version of Earth, slower and dreamier. You smile at the idea, a watery Narnia, but with more salamanders and less prophecy. Here's your odd fact of the night. One species of cave salamander, the OLM, can live for over 100 years and go more than a decade without eating. Imagine that 10 years of skipping snacks and still vibing in a cave like some Zen monk in amphibian form. You feel a weird kind of envy, a life without noise, without deadlines, without urgent emails from people who've never seen a blind shrimp glide across still water. You lie back on a dry shelf and stare at the ceiling where tiny droplets gather and fall in slow motion. Each drip echoes faintly. Each one takes 100 years to form a stalactite, an icicle of time carved drop by minerals dissolved in water. You wonder how many formed while no one was looking. How many will keep forming long after you're gone? Scientists still debate just how isolated some of these subterranean species truly are. Have they evolved independently in each cave? Or are there hidden underground networks that link populations across distances we can't even imagine? Some deep studies suggest surprises. Others just raise more questions. It's not answers that fill this place. It's possibility. You sit up again and watch the cave shrimp swim in slow spirals. You're no biologist, but you feel a kind of reverence, like you're watching the ancient choreography of something sacred. Something that didn't need you, but allowed you to witness it anyway. That's grace. You take off your shoes and dip your toes in the pool. It's cold, but not scolding. Just reminding you, you're not in your world right now. You're visiting. And as long as you're gentle, you're welcome to stay. You dry your feet with the inside of your shirt and slide farther along the tunnel. The cave lake narrows into a trickle. The stone changes to limestone, giving way to basalt. The edges are rougher now, older. But the quiet remains. And in that quiet life, always life, just different, smaller, slower, unbothered. You turn off your light for a second, and in the pitch black, you don't feel alone at all. You feel surrounded. And somehow, that's comforting. You're beginning to notice a rhythm, not of footsteps or breath or even dripping water, but of survival. Everything down here moves slowly, sparingly, like time is a luxury. A precious thing to be stretched, not spent. You shuffle along a narrow ledge, now feet testing each patch of ground like a careful dance. On one side, the stone wall presses close. On the other, nothing. A sudden, gaping vertical shaft vanishing into the black. You drop a pebble into the darkness. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, plink. It lands in water far below, and the sound barely reaches you. You turn to the wall beside you and see something strange, tiny bubbles shimmering on slick stone. You touch one. It hisses faintly, and your fingertips come away smelling like rotten eggs. Sulfur. Not from a leak. Not from a man-made pipe. From life. You've found a chemically active cave system where sulfur and methane seep from the bedrock, feeding whole ecosystems of weird, stinky organisms. Here's your major scientific fact. In deep caves around the world, like Mobile Cave in Romania, life thrives in toxic environments. The air is low in oxygen, high in hydrogen sulfide, and completely cut off from the surface. And yet, entire food webs survive here, starting with chemosynthetic bacteria that use sulfur compounds for energy instead of sunlight. These bacteria form thick mats on rock walls in water pools, even floating like grey cobwebs in the air. Some glow faintly, others just shimmer like oil slicks. And where bacteria thrive, other creatures follow. You see worms curled like tiny ribbons, blind isopods, clinging to cracks, and centipede-like things that scuttle away before you can get a good look. The smell is sharp now, not unbearable, but insistent. Your eyes sting a little. You wonder how anything could live in this. But then you realize life didn't choose these conditions. It adapted to them, over thousands, maybe millions of years. And suddenly, it seems kind of heroic. You kneel by a shallow puddle where the sulfur sheen is thickest. A translucent snail drags itself slowly along the edge. Its shell is etched with crystal patterns like someone carved frost into it. Here's your odd fact of the night. Some cave snails can survive fully submerged in toxic gas. They don't breathe it exactly. They just tolerate it better than most living things. Like holding your breath in a public restroom, but for 20 years straight. You grin. You can't help it, because even here in a cave that smells like dragon burps, life finds a way to be adorable. You take a seat on a cool stone outcrop. The smell isn't bothering you as much now. Your nose is adapting, or maybe your mind is. That's the funny thing about this journey. You're not just observing underground life anymore, you're becoming part of it. You eat less, breathe slower, think longer. You move through tunnels like a creature that's always been here. And it feels right. Scientists still debate the limits of chemosynthesis. Can these sulfur-fed ecosystems support large animals? Could a cave cut off for millions of years sustain its own evolutionary path, separate from the surface? What if there are entire food chains we've never discovered simply because they never needed us? You stare into the dark pool again. For a moment, you imagine it blinking back. Not in a scary way, just aware. Down here, light doesn't define what's real. Smell does. Temperature. Chemistry. Patience. You rest your head against the stone wall. It's warm again, just barely. And from deep within the shaft, you hear something. Not a roar, not a rush, a bloop. Just one. And that is somehow the most profound sound of the night. You close your eyes and wonder if the cave is dreaming too. You descend with the slow elegance of a dream. The shaft curves inward now, no longer a sheer drop, but a spiraling slide made of cool rock and occasional slicks of damp sediment. You lean into it. Let your hands trail the walls. Let gravity nudge you toward whatever waits below. The air grows warmer again subtly, like stepping into a greenhouse. There's a faint hum, too. Not a sound exactly. More like a feeling. A vibration in your ribs. A background whisper in your teeth. You've entered one of Earth's oldest cave systems. This place hasn't seen light in 1,000,000 years, maybe more. The walls here are domed and wide, worn smooth by eons of dripping, dissolving, collapsing, and reforming. Stalactites hang like frozen daggers. Some are the size of tree trunks. Others are thin as needles. You brush one with your fingers. It shudders slightly like a tuning fork. You whisper an apology, and the cave forgives you. Here's your major scientific fact. Limestone caves like this form when slightly acidic water, usually rain mixed with carbon dioxide, seeps into the ground and slowly dissolves the calcium carbonate in rock. Over thousands to millions of years, entire cathedrals of hollow stone emerge. Some cave systems like those in Slovenia and Vietnam stretch for hundreds of kilometers. You move forward, boots squelching lightly in ancient mud. There's no straight path, just arches, shelves, and collapsed columns that suggest this place has been alive with movement for longer than human memory. You duck beneath a stone arch and pause. There's a hole in the floor. A pit. Inside it, bones. Not fresh ones, not gruesome. Just a gentle, silent pile of fossils. Some are small rodent-like, others larger. A curved rib, a cracked pelvis, even a fang, long and dull and brown with time. These aren't museum fossils. These are the leftovers of creatures that lived and died underground. Cave lions, cave bears, even prehistoric humans are known to have explored and possibly even inhabited deep caves like these. Some caves show traces of charcoal handprints and cave art dating back over 30,000 years. And here's your odd fact. In one French cave, a human footprint was found beside the paw print of a wolf, both over 26,000 years old. Scientists still aren't sure whether the wolf was wild tamed or just curious. Maybe they walked side by side. Maybe they followed each other. Or maybe it was just a coincidence that feels like a story. You smile at that. You like when history leaves room for imagination. You settle near the fossil pit, the glow of your flashlight catching glints of calcite and old marrow. The silence is richer here, not emptier, just deeper. The kind of silence that humbles you. Scientists still debate how early humans interacted with caves. Were they ritual spaces, shelters, hunting traps, places to bury the dead? The evidence is scattered and often enigmatic, but the one thing they all agree on is this. We've always been drawn to the dark. You think of the first people crawling into this same kind of chamber, torch in hand, hearing their own breath bounce off wet walls. Were they afraid, or did they feel what you're feeling now? Not fear, not loneliness, just awe. You lie back on a dry patch of stone and trace the ceiling with your light. In the grooves and ripples, you think you see faces, maybe carved by water, maybe by time, maybe just by a tired mind. You blink. They're gone. Just rock again. You chuckle softly. Okay, cave. You win. And for a moment you wonder what the earth remembers. All the feet it has carried. All the creatures it has sheltered. All the storms it has muffled from below. The cave says nothing, but you swear it listens. You close your eyes, and this time, when sleep pulls at you, you let it. Because this chamber isn't a tomb, it's a memory. And tonight, you're part of it. You wake to warmth. A different kind of warmth, not from sun or breath or fire, but from deep within the rock itself. The cave glows faintly amber in your periphery. Not light exactly, more like a temperature that has learned to hum. The stone under your body radiates a low, steady heat, and the air smells metallic again, like rust and eggs and something sharp. You're close to the geothermal zone now. The tunnel ahead steams, not dramatically, just a gentle haze that curls in the beam of your flashlight like sighs from the earth's chest. You move carefully. The walls sweat. Your hands leave prints where you touch. A drop lands on your cheek, and it's hot, not scalding, just enough to remind you that you're approaching the planet's pulse. Here's your major scientific fact. Earth's geothermal gradient increases as you go deeper, on average around 25 degrees per kilometre. But in certain tectonic zones or hotspots, that rate is much higher. Beneath Iceland, Japan, Yellowstone and other volcanic regions, groundwater heated by magma forms natural hot springs, geysers, and underground thermal vents. The walls now shimmer with mineral stains, red from iron yellow, from sulfur, white from calcium. It looks like someone spilled a palette of geologic watercolor across the cave. You spot movement near a warm crack in the wall, tiny twitching limbs, not bugs, millipedes, long and pale, each segment gently undulating like they're dancing to a beat you can't hear. These creatures live exclusively in the heat, their metabolisms tuned to a narrow temperature range. Too cold and they slow to a stop. Too hot and they cook from the inside. But right here, they thrive. Here's your odd fact. In some geothermal caves, bacteria thrive on hydrogen gas. These microbial mats form thick, brightly coloured biofilms, pink-orange, even neon green. They're like bacterial graffiti tagging ancient walls with their chemistry. You lean closer to one of the stained patches and sniff. It's faint but sweet, like burnt sugar mixed with metal. Bizarre, but not unpleasant. You keep walking and the cave narrows again, just wide enough for your shoulders, and then it opens up into what feels like a bubble. A spherical room, domed ceiling, smooth floor. In the center, a pool, clear, still, and steaming. You take off your gloves, strip off your socks, and dip your feet in. It's heaven. The heat travels up your legs and into your spine, loosening something you hadn't realized was tight. Your neck softens. Your shoulders drop. Your whole body seems to exhale. This is no tourist hot spring. This is geothermal water, heated by Earth's breath, enriched with minerals filtered through miles of stone. Scientists still debate how deep life can exist near geothermal vents. In the ocean, hydrothermal vents host entire chemosynthetic ecosystems, tube worms, clams, bacteria that eat hydrogen sulfide. Similar microbial mats have been found in terrestrial geothermal springs. Could there be a whole kingdom of heat-loving organisms hidden deep underground? You lean back on your elbows and stare up at the ceiling. Steam swirls against the rock like incense. The condensation falls in lazy droplets onto your face and chest. You think about how many people live above this place. Cities, forests, highways, and how few know what burns beneath them. It's not fire. Not exactly. It's time. Trapped heat from Earth's formation. The decay of radioactive elements. The slow friction of tectonic plates grinding past each other. All of it still simmering. You could cook rice here probably, or melt chocolate, or boil your foot if you're not careful. You smile, because even here, even in the quietest corner of Earth, humor survives. You close your eyes, again feet still in the pool. The heat is perfect. And you wonder, not for the first time, if maybe you could live down here. Not just survive, but belong. Eat mushrooms, watch blind fish, nap beside biofilm. Maybe that's what the microbes are doing right now, thinking the same thing. Or not thinking at all. Just being. And that sounds kind of perfect. The warmth lingers on your skin as you slip your boots back on. Your socks are tucked into your pack, surrendered to steam, and your feet still tingle with the memory of the geothermal pool. You feel recharged, like someone poured hot tea into your bones. You move on. The tunnel curves again downward and to the left. The rock underfoot grows coarser, darker basalt probably. Volcanic. Evidence of fire once tearing through this part of the world long before cities, before trees, maybe even before fish. You run your hand across a wall and feel the faint swirl of what used to be molten. It's cooled now, of course. Everything cools eventually. But the stories remain. You come to a vast chamber, bigger than any before. The ceiling is high and lost in shadows. The walls drip with condensation. The floor is uneven, scattered with boulders and fallen slabs. But in the center, like a jewel tucked into a cavernous fist, sits something strange. A column of crystals. They shine faintly, clear, glassy, stretching 6 feet tall. Some are broken. Some are perfect. You step closer. You're standing in the edge of a subterranean geode. Not the tiny one sold in gift shops, but a real one. Formed over millions of years from mineral-rich water, dripping into voids and slowly building up structures like cathedrals made of patience. Here's your major scientific fact. In caves like the Nika mine in Mexico, gypsum crystals have grown to over 30 feet long, suspended in 50-degree heat and nearly 100% humidity. The process took hundreds of thousands of years, and the environment is so hostile that scientists can only explore it in special suits for minutes at a time. This chamber isn't quite so extreme, but it hums with the same energy, quiet, steady growth. No rush, no panic. Just time doing what time does best. You reach out and touch the nearest crystal. It's cool, smooth, almost soft feeling in that paradoxical way solid things can be. Your reflection stares back at you, warped and sleepy. You whisper, "You've seen things, huh?" And the crystal says nothing, because it doesn't need to. Here's your odd fact. Some of these mineral formations contain trapped water droplets, tiny bubbles, sealed inside the crystals for up to 500,000 years. In a few, scientists found ancient microbes still alive. They were revived in labs, waking up like grumpy roommates after a million-year nap. You press your ear to the crystal. It's warm on the inside, like it remembers the world it came from. You sit for a long time, just listening. Not for sound, but for presence. Scientists still debate how best to protect these fragile ecosystems. Some caves are sealed off permanently. Others are open to tourists. But with every breath we bring into these chambers, we risk upsetting balances that have taken millennia to form. You think about the responsibility of being down here, not just to observe, but to leave gently. You pull out your water bottle and take a sip. It tastes like metal and memory. You take one last look at the crystals, tall and silent like sleeping monks, and step away. The tunnel slopes again, this time into a more natural passage carved by ancient groundwater. You move carefully. The air grows drier. The stone shifts to sandstone red sandy, crumbling in spots. You're moving between worlds now. From the geothermal realm of fire into the fossil realm of time. And something ahead glows. Not light, not heat. Just the sense that the deepest part of the cave is near. And that you're about to meet it. You smell it before you see it. Not sulfur this time, not damp moss or rusty rock. Something faintly sweet, earthy and dry. Like paper that's lived too long in a drawer. Like dust that remembers the footsteps that stirred it. And then the tunnel widens again, and you understand. You're standing at the mouth of a fossil chamber. Bones. Fossils. Impressions. They're everywhere. Not arranged, not labelled. Just scattered, half-buried, part-emerged, resting where time left them. Long femurs, brittle jaws, tiny teeth, no bigger than your fingernail. Some are stuck in the walls like insects in amber. Others lie in shallow beds of fine cave dust. You kneel beside a rib cage, mostly intact. It's not huge, dog-sized maybe. The bones are yellowish porous, feathered with calcite, like they're being slowly pulled back into stone. You whisper, "Hi." It just feels right. Here's your major scientific fact. Caves are natural time capsules. Their stable temperature and isolation from weather make them ideal environments for preserving bones and even soft tissues. Fossils found in caves have helped us reconstruct the lives of extinct animals, from saber-toothed cats and cave bears to early hominins and prehistoric bats. You move slowly through the chamber flashlight beam, dancing across 100 quiet stories. There's a skull with twisted fangs, a set of antlers tangled in stone. And to your left, what looks like a preserved paw print pressed into hardened mud, like someone pressed pause on time. You crouch beside it. 4 toes, claws. It looks fresh, even though you know it's not. You laugh softly because here's your odd fact. In one cave in Australia, a fossilized python was found coiled around the remains of its prey, a 15-million-year-old time-stamped meal. It died in the act of digestion. You think maybe even snakes get food comas. You find a corner and sit with your back to the wall. The fossils aren't frightening. They're serene. Gone, but not gone. Echoes in calcium. Scientists still debate how some bones get so deep into these cave systems. Did predators drag their prey inside? Did animals fall in? Were some intentionally buried by early humans? The answers change from site to site, from bone to bone. But what never changes is the stillness. You run your hand along a fossilized spine and feel your pulse slow to match its rhythm. Then faintly movement. Not dramatic, just a whisper across the dust. You look. A beetle. Small, glossy, dark red. It scurries across the top of a bone like it's walking on history, like it's lived here forever. And maybe it has. This chamber is a reminder nothing is truly gone. Not entirely. Every cell, every breath, every passing moment turns into something else. Into stone, into beetles, into dust that tells the truth without speaking. You lean back and close your eyes for a second, and in the darkness you imagine them all rising, not as zombies, don't worry, but as shadows. Mammoths, wolves, bears, tiny deer, flying foxes, all those lives layered beneath our feet, waiting patiently for someone like you to say, "I see you." You open your eyes and you whisper it again, louder this time. "I see you." No one answers. And yet, it feels like someone heard. You leave the fossil chamber gently, like backing out of a nursery where memory is sleeping. The passage narrows again, then bends sharply, as if Earth herself took a breath and held it for 1,000 years. You step into a space that feels strangely familiar, though you've never seen it. The walls glitter. Not like crystal, not like damp mineral sheen, but like life. Thin strands, filaments, threads stretch between the rock faces. You run your light along them, and they glow faintly like cobwebs lit by moonlight. They sway when you breathe on them. And where they meet the walls, little tufts like mold with ambition. You've found the subterranean fungi, not mushrooms, not the kind you eat. These are networks, quiet, pulsing, branching life forms that digest the earth from the inside out. Here's your major scientific fact. Underground fungi form vast mycelial networks, thread-like structures that connect roots, rocks, and bacteria. In caves, certain fungi have adapted to complete darkness and low nutrients by digesting rock-decaying organic matter and even bones. Some species even feed on radioactive materials, making them of interest to space and nuclear researchers. You crouch low and watch one of the strands quiver ever so slightly. It isn't dramatic. There's no Hollywood shimmer. But in that slow living line, you see purpose. These fungi are not wandering. They're mapping, claiming, collaborating. You brush your hand along the wall and something soft gives way. Moss. Gnome. A biofilm alive with bacteria, fungi, and possibly something in between. It pulses slightly when touched. Here's your odd fact. A species of cave-dwelling fungus called Geomyces destructans is responsible for white nose syndrome in bats, a disease that has devastated North American bat populations. It spreads in cold caves, growing on the muzzles of hibernating bats and disrupting their sleep cycles. You look up and for the first time in hours see movement overhead. A wing, then another. Small, silent figures swirl above you in the darkness. Bats. They circle a dozen or more, their paths like slow ballet loops. Not panicked, not rushing. Just checking their space, navigating by sound so refined it makes GPS look clumsy. You whisper, "Sorry, just visiting." One glides past your ear, close enough to feel the wake of its wing. You don't flinch. You belong now. Even the bats know it. Scientists still debate the origin of subterranean fungi. Are they descendants of surface species that adapted downward or entirely separate evolutionary lines? Some DNA, or these suggest cave fungi diverged tens of millions of years ago, perhaps when dinosaurs still ruled the surface. You sit back and feel the cave breathe around you. The air is moist but alive, not stale, not dead. This is not a grave. It's a nursery, a world where life keeps folding in on itself, reinventing, reusing, re-emerging in new forms. You pull out a snack bar, chocolate slightly crushed. It feels ridiculous here, like bringing a glitter cannon to a monastery. Still, you eat slowly, crumbs falling onto the biofilm. You whisper an apology. Again. This seems to be a trend down here. You lean back and close your eyes for a few moments. The bats settle. The mycelium sways. You wonder if right now the fungi beneath your feet are recording your presence, sending threads out to trace your warmth, marking your passage in chemical whispers, not to hunt you. Just to remember, because down here, remembering is everything. Your footsteps echo differently now. There's something in the air, less echo, more edge. The rock walls aren't rough anymore. They're smooth, carved, structured. You blink twice, adjust your light, and then you see it. A door frame, not natural, not mineral, metal. Your fingers brush a cold steel handle, dulled with rust. It creaks as you pull. The hinges protest softly, and then, like peeling back a layer of time, the door swings inward. Welcome to the underground world of humans. You step into a narrow tunnel reinforced with concrete and rebar. The air here tastes different, filtered, stale, still faintly touched with paint and plastic and old intentions. You've entered a bunker. Not the apocalyptic kind, not the stocked with beans and Bibles variety. This one's quieter, abandoned. Papers flutter against the wall where moisture crept in through a hairline crack. A rotary phone lies on the floor, its cord tangled like an old vine. Here's your major scientific fact. Across the world, subterranean spaces have been used for human shelter, safety, and science. From Cold War bunkers and seed vaults to underground physics laboratories and data centers buried deep in mountains, humans have always looked downward for protection from radiation, wartime, and sometimes each other. You move down the corridor and come to a large dome-like chamber. In the center, a circle of old desks and rolling chairs. A projector hangs overhead like a one-eyed robot. Someone lived here, or worked here, or waited here. You imagine it lit up. Coffee in mugs, chalk on boards, equations scrawled, half-finished, people trying to understand things just above their pay grade. Here's your odd fact. There's an underground complex in Japan built to house a neutrino detector, a gigantic tank of ultra-pure water surrounded by thousands of sensors to detect invisible particles from space. Visitors must shower and wear lint-free suits. It's like doing science in a sacred spa. You wander into a storage room. Shelves line the walls, half collapsed, half full. Notebooks, canned food, a typewriter. You pause beside a long-forgotten calendar still pinned to the wall. August 1981. The day they stopped flipping the pages. Scientists still debate the ethics and permanence of underground facilities. Is it wise to store humanity's seeds and knowledge below ground? What happens if we forget where we buried them, or worse, if we remember too late? You walk to a door marked Lab 2 and open it. Inside, darkness. Then, with a flick of your light, rows of glass tubes, some shattered, some sealed, all fogged with time. A cold chamber. A deep freeze. Maybe samples. Maybe experiments. Maybe memories that never thawed. You shut the door gently. Not out of fear, but out of respect. You exit the bunker and continue along the tunnel, the stone slowly reasserting itself. Crumbling mortar, giving way to raw earth once more. But the human touch lingers. You find graffiti, a cartoon drawn in charcoal. A smiley face, a peace sign. The phrase, "We were here," written in block letters. You smile. "Yeah," you say aloud, "I see that." And somehow that feels enough. The human footprints fade behind you. It's stone again now, pure, rough comforting in its chaos. But something has shifted. The air is tighter, the walls press inward, the ceiling a little lower. You stoop as you move, brushing against rocks that seem to radiate silence. And then up ahead, nothing. Not a wall. Not a dead end, just an opening. Vast. Black. Still. You take a breath, step inside, and suddenly it's like you're walking through a dream of the future wrapped in the bones of the past. You've entered a hollow world. A mega cavern. A place carved not by nature, but by time water and shifting tectonic plates. The walls stretch hundreds of feet into the air pillars of limestone and iron, streaked with ochre and silver. It feels like walking through the belly of some sleeping god. You imagine what it would be like to live here. Not just visit, not just explore, but survive long term. Here's your major scientific fact. In theory, humans could adapt to life underground. Artificial lighting, hydroponic farms, recycled air, and geothermal energy could allow communities to live in large cave systems shielded from surface hazards like climate change, nuclear fallout, or asteroid impact. In fact, space agencies have studied caves as analogues for future Martian colonies. You imagine a cluster of homes along one wall, hollowed out nooks with windows that glow warm yellow. Kids playing with rubber balls. Garden plots under UV lights. Bookshelves stacked beside stalagmites. It sounds crazy, but it also sounds peaceful. Here's your odd fact. There's a cave hotel in Turkey that's over 1,000 years old, carved into soft volcanic rock, passed from empire to empire and still welcoming guests. You could sip tea in a room where ancient monks once meditated by torchlight. You find a flat rock and sit staring out over the vastness. Could we really live like this? The answer surprises you. Maybe. Sure, we'd have to give up sunshine, sky, trees, the sound of birds. But in return, quiet. Stability. Safety. No storms, no traffic, no sunscreen. You chuckle, but it's not a joke really, because you know the surface is changing. You've read the headlines: fires, floods, droughts. What if one day the surface isn't home anymore? What if the next chapter of humanity starts here, beneath our feet? Scientists still debate the psychological toll of long-term subterranean living. Would we grow pale and listless, lose our circadian rhythms, crave horizons, or would we adapt, evolve, grow new stories in the dark? You think of the fungi, the blind fish, the glowing bacteria, the humans who already choose to live in underground cities, from Montreal's tunnels to Beijing's basement housing. Maybe the dark isn't so scary. Maybe it's just unfamiliar. You lie back and stare up at the ceiling. Your light dances across it like a firefly. You trace imaginary constellations in the mineral blotches: Orion, the Big Dipper. A smiley face. You wonder what your name would sound like in cave echoes. You whisper it and listen as it bounces back, softer, slower, but still yours. And then a second echo, deeper, quieter, as if the cave whispered back its own name. And suddenly, you don't feel alone. Not in a spooky way, not in a ghost story way, just accompanied. You close your eyes, letting the sound roll over you like a tide. You think maybe we're not descending anymore. Maybe we're becoming. The ground beneath your boots grows warmer again, only now it's not from pools or steam vents or cozy geothermal springs. It's something deeper. A steady, slow heat that seeps up through layers of stone like a whispered warning. You've come as far down as you can. This isn't a cavern. It's not a tunnel. You're standing at the lip of a narrow, jagged shaft, descending into the red dark below. Your light doesn't touch the bottom. The air feels thick, almost metallic, and your breath curls in strange ways, like the cave doesn't quite agree with the laws of physics anymore. And you realize you're at the edge of the mantle. Not the mantle itself, of course, that's dozens of kilometers below. You're not burrowing through magma tonight, but you are as close as a person can reasonably get to the planet's molten underlayer and still be able to tell a story about it. Here's your major scientific fact. Beneath Earth's crust lies the mantle, a solid but slowly flowing layer of rock that makes up over 80% of the planet's volume. While mostly inaccessible, certain deep boreholes and tectonic rifts allow us to study the minerals, heat gradients, and seismic signals that hint at its mysterious behavior. You sit at the edge of the shaft legs, dangling into the dark. You wouldn't jump in, obviously, but it's comforting to be this close to something that's been burning quietly for 4.5 billion years. Your body hums in response. There's no sound, really, just pressure. The kind you feel when you know you're standing next to something ancient and unbothered. Here's your odd fact. In 2008, scientists revived microbes found 2 miles below the Earth's surface in fluid trapped within rock fractures. These bacteria had been isolated for tens of millions of years. A subterranean biosphere that hadn't seen sunlight since the dinosaurs went extinct. You whisper, "Anyone still home?" Something creaks, or shifts, or sighs. It's probably just a rock adjusting. Probably. Scientists still debate just how much life exists in the deep biosphere. Some estimates suggest that up to 70% of Earth's microbial life lives underground, hidden from sunlight, but thriving on hydrogen, methane, and iron. It's a world powered not by photosynthesis, but by chemistry and patience. You lie back on the warm stone, and for a moment, just a moment, you imagine you live down here. Not visiting, not exploring, but belonging. Your skin adapts. You grow used to the silence. You speak in vibrations. You eat minerals. You sleep in shifts that follow no sun, no moon, no clock. You become part of the planet, not just on it, in it. And you realize with a kind of quiet certainty that life will always find a way, even here. Especially here. Because in the deepest dark, under unimaginable pressure, with no sunlight or songs or seasons, something still breathes. You close your eyes, and the heat rises to meet you. So now, as you lie here in the belly of earth, still and weightless, let the stone beneath you cradle your spine, and the warmth beneath that stone remind you that you are held not just by gravity, but by history, by the patient breath of microbes older than memory, by the echoes of bats and footsteps and whispers never recorded, by the subtle tug of the mantle, slowly spinning, slowly flexing, keeping continents afloat above its silent fire. There is something strangely gentle about that idea, that even as the surface grows loud and fast and full of blinking lights down here, everything stays slow, deliberate, timeless. You imagine the planet like a great sleeping beast, not dead, but dreaming, and every cave you've walked through tonight was part of its breath, its pulse, its long, subterranean memory. You've seen things most people never will. And now maybe you understand the Earth not just as a surface, but as a being. And you are part of its story. Thank you for listening so quietly, for being curious, for staying with me. I hope this journey brought you peace. Now, wherever you are in the world, whatever time it may be, let the dark wrap around you like stone. Let warmth hum against your ribs. Let your dreams tunnel deep, and may they find good company. End of script. Good night.